Tonight we're going to talk about Jacob and Esau. Who's heard of them? You have? Yeah, a little bit. It's kind of a... I really didn't know much about them until a couple of years ago when I taught this. But it's kind of set the stage for the whole Old Testament. All right, Alex. You get to sit over here now. Yep. All right, thank you. So there's really a lot we could talk about with Jacob and Esau because, like I said, they kind of set the stage for the whole Old Testament. Because Esau, he's actually like the founder of the Edomites, whatever, which is a nation. And then Jacob later gets changed to Israel, and he starts the 12 tribes of Israel. And then you have nations coming and fighting against each other. And then they come back together, and then there's just a whole long, actually lots of information you could dig into with Jacob and Esau. So this is going to encourage you guys to go home and learn more, right? Yeah, you're lying. You're lying. I know that look. But we're going to talk kind of like, I call it the early years. I'm going to say it's a little past their childhood probably. I don't know for sure. But it's definitely more towards the beginning. So before we dig in, I'm going to pray. And we'll learn about Jacob and Esau, and we'll learn about their start. And then they treated each other like brothers usually do. So let's pray. Dear God, we're just so thankful that we can come together tonight. We're thankful that we just have a place to be, and that we can worship you and learn about you freely and not have to be worried about being persecuted or judged or anything like that, God. So I'm thankful that there's kids that are here that want to come. I hope that they genuinely have fun here and that they know that they are loved, not just by us, but ultimately you. And I pray as we dig into your word that we learn a little bit. We learn some things that we can use to apply to our own lives, some practical lessons, and just another little spark to be more curious about you and to know more about you and your overall story and how we fit into that. So God, we just give this night to you, and we're thankful for all of your love and your grace. In your name we pray, amen. Okay, so early years. Let's start out. Before we get into Jacob and Esau, somebody had to create Jacob and Esau, right? Just like somebody created you guys. So their parents were Isaac and Rebekah. Isaac was the dad, Rebekah was the mom. But Rebekah was not able to have children. And so Isaac did what most of us would probably do, is we prayed, hopefully. He prayed to God, asking for Rebekah to be able to have children or have a child, and lo and behold, I feel like this happens all the time, is people who are trying to have children, they don't just end up with one, but they end up with twins, two, or triplets. I mean, I guess it's possible, but most of the time it seems like, hey, I'm trying, and all of a sudden, boom, now I got two of those things in me, which that sounds awful. I'm never going to know, thank goodness. But Rebekah, she's blessed with twins. So let's kind of read up on that, and we're going to see a little bit of foreshadowing here in Genesis 25, because we're already there, and then go to verses 21. We're going to read verses 21 through 23. So Isaac pleaded with the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was unable to have children. The Lord answered Isaac's prayer, and Rebekah became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to ask the Lord about it. "Why is this happening to me?" she asked. And the Lord told her, "The sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older son will serve your younger son." So that last sentence there is a big foreshadowing. Your older son will serve the younger son. And we're going to dig into why that happens, because did you hear that they were struggling in the womb? So they were kind of fighting. Does anyone want to know why they were fighting in the womb, maybe? Yeah, they wanted to be first, just like anybody else wants to be. When we do a race or we do any kind of competitive thing, we want to win. We want to be first. And so I try to get a little bit of animations for you guys to make it a little bit more fun. But this is maybe what they looked like inside the womb, and they were kind of fighting. But that's Esau. We're going to learn about Esau. He's the hairy one. So going into it, they're fighting as they come out the womb. And then, get this, go to verse 25. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. So they named him Esau. Then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. So I remember they said they were struggling. So Esau comes out first, but Jacob's like, no, he's trying. He's grabbing the heel, trying to pull back or whatever, trying to pull in front and get in front because it was important to be first. Why do you think it was important to be first? Someone besides Leo. You.
Because God said the older one would inherit the younger.
Yes, and he did say that. That's not exactly why they would want to be first, though. Ryan? Yes, if you're the first child, you get the birthright. And that was a big deal back then because the birthright gave the firstborn child a double of whatever other child got, and they became the leader of the family and all the belongings. So, like it said, Esau was the first one. He was the first one out, despite Jacob's effort of trying to pull him back in. And describe what it said about Esau. What was the description they gave Esau? Red, covered in hair, and hairy. So, and he was a skilled hunter. That was another thing. I think it says that somewhere else in the verses, but he was also a skilled hunter. So this is the first thing I thought of when I read that. Do you guys remember all the Geico commercials of the cavemen? Well, you can YouTube it. They're really funny. Well, that was the first thing I always thought of with Esau is I think of those cavemen and all the hairy, because it says they were very hairy. And they also called them sometimes Edom, which means red. And that's how later you get the nation Edomites. I'm butchering that, but it's close. And then Jacob, he's quiet, and he's also deceitful. So that's just Jacob. Jacob's just Jacob. He's quiet, just normal. And then like I said, Esau, he was a skilled hunter, and he would go out all the time, kill food, and bring food home for the family. Whereas, like I said, Esau was quiet, more reserved. He kind of stood around camp or wherever. And so Esau was Isaac's favorite, the dad's, because he was the more aggressive, the adventurous one, the one to go out and kill and bring home the meat. And then Rebecca was Jacob's favorite because I guess he was a mama's boy, and Rebecca just happened to favor Jacob more. So one day, Esau came back from hunting, and I guess he didn't catch anything because he comes back while Jacob's cooking, and Jacob has a meal, and Esau comes back, and he is just famished. He tells Jacob, he's like, dude, I am starving. Like, I'm going to die. I think that's exactly what it said, is Jacob, I'm starving, I'm going to die. I want that food you're making. So Jacob said, he thought about it. He's like, oh, he really wants this food. Well, what can I get from it? So Jacob says, well, you sell me your birthright and I'll give you this food. So Esau, out of how hungry he was and how he was going to die from not eating, he said, what good is a birthright to me if I'm going to die of starvation? So Jacob gives Esau the meal, and in exchange for the birthright. So there's Esau. He's gotten really muscular. He works out. His hair, and you can just see like the scheming face on Jacob as he's like, yeah, I'll give you this little piece of food for a birthright. So now Jacob has the birthright. So remember, I said Esau is starving. He was hungry. He wanted that food. So he was willing to give up his birthright for one meal. How many meals do you guys get a day? 3. Yeah. You want to think one meal would be that big of a deal. And so it just seems crazy that one little thing would make you want to give up something so big, right? So I want to do a little demonstration. I was going to pass out maybe like some quarters or like give you guys little circles to use, but that just takes a lot of time and ain't nobody got time for that. So we're going to use our fingers and it'll work the exact same. So just put your 2 fingers together and then close one eye and then leave one eye open, but take your fingers and then see how it doesn't take up very much space, just your fingers, but put them right in front of your eye. And what do you see? You see just your fingers, right? Yes, just play along. You just see your fingers. Now, take your fingers and then move them back. And now you can see everything else in the background, right? I mean, you can see a lot. So when you take something so little and you kind of get away from it or push it back, you see big picture. But, so here's the thing. How often are we like Esau and we let something so little cover up everything else going on? And just that one little thing seems so important that that's all we can see. We do it all the time, don't we? And as I was looking at this, it then made me think about, it sounds really familiar, not just in the fact that we value little things so often in the grand scheme of things, but when Esau was born, he knew he had the birthright because he was first. So he knew exactly what he was going to get from day one. He was going to get the double inheritance. He was going to be leader of the family. He knew all that, but yet he gave it up. And so as believers, we already know what we're going to get, right, in the end. It's going to take a little bit of time to get there at the final reward, but we know. This whole book tells us everything. We know exactly what we're going to get. From the day we become a believer, we know that we're going to be able to spend eternity with God forever. But how often do we let something so little get in the way of that? It's just crazy, like when you think about it, something so little blocks the big picture of what's going on. Because we're promised something greater as well. But we let worldly things get in the way all the time. So here's the first part of your notes. And it's immediate pleasure often loses sight of the future. There's going to be kind of 3 points we hit on this lesson. I think they're very practical lessons we can learn. Like, you don't have to necessarily keep this piece of paper, but I hope you guys do keep these little notes in mind and think about these as we go on in our lives from this point on. And think about it. How often immediate pleasure often loses sight of the future. So that one little thought of filling Esau's stomach with food, he was willing to give up everything for immediate pleasure. And then the short pressure situation is usually the hardest part of fighting a temptation. So like in the moment, like right at the moment. So in the moment, Esau was saying, I'm starving, I'm going to die. Give me that food. In the moment, that's the hardest part. But if he could just wait until whatever, dinner or the next meal, I guarantee you that moment of starvation, he wouldn't even think twice about it. So like an example for you guys. Say you're kind of at the point where I'm sure some kids are starting to drink alcohol, and it's a very easy example to use, so we're going to use it. So talking right now, you're like, oh, I'll never drink alcohol. Like, it's not even a temptation because it's just not even irrelevant right now. It's not around. We don't do that here. The friends here aren't going to tempt you right now. So it's easy to say, oh, I won't do alcohol right now in this moment. I won't do alcohol. It's easy. But if you're over at your friend's house, the parents are gone, and your buddy walks up or a girlfriend walks up and says, hey, I just stole my dad's liquor. You want to try some? In the moment, that's when it's hard to not say no, right? Like right now, it's easy, but it's a short pressure. So if you can just get through that little short section, afterwards it's like, oh, it's no big deal. That was easy. But in the moment is when it seems hard. All right, moving on. Oh, I thought this was kind of funny. It turned out blurry though. It wasn't blurry on my on like Google when I found it, but then when I put it in PowerPoint mode, it got blurry. So, but that's Jesus and his studliness, or the church, or the gospel, and that's us drowning in the world, the oceans of the world. But how accurate is that picture? How often do we just drown and float away in all these worldly things that mean nothing? But hopefully we have a church or the church that will come help rescue us, and then ultimately the gospel. If I know you guys have heard it, but hopefully you understand the gospel. And if you don't, come talk to us. We'd love to talk to you more about it. All right, so who has the birthright now? Or the birthright now? Who has it now? Jacob. Right. You're listening. Thank you. Jacob has the birthright now. So we're gonna move forward just a little bit. I don't know how long exactly in time, but we're moving forward. And so Jacob knows he has the birthright, but he also needs the blessing. So this is when the dad would say, I don't know, whatever. Yeah, you the blessing. And they bless him with the blessing. So he has the birthright, but he still needs the blessing. So now, later on, Isaac's sick. He's not feeling well. He's on his deathbed, literally, and he's blind. But he can still hear and talk. So Isaac knows he's about to die, and he wants to go give Esau the blessing because he's the firstborn. So he tells Esau, hey, go out and hunt, because he's a skillful hunter and he likes to hunt. Go out and hunt. Go kill something. Make a wonderful meal for me. Bring it here to me in my bed, and I will bless you. Well, Rebekah, the mom, overhears Isaac say that to Esau. So Rebekah, since Jacob is Rebekah's favorite, Rebekah wants Jacob to have the blessing. So Rebekah gets this crazy plan, and she's going to tell Jacob to try to be deceitful and pull off a trick and trick Isaac, the father. You guys never do that, right? No. That's what I thought. You guys are never deceitful or try to trick your parents. So Rebekah tells Jacob this plan of, all right, we're going to trick your dad. I'm going to cook a meal for you to give your dad, and then he's going to bless you. But Jacob's kind of smart, I guess, if you want to call it that. And he says, but Mom, what about Esau's smell? I mean, he hunts a lot. He's always around dead animals, so he probably smells real bad. And so Rebekah's like, oh, well, we'll get one of his shirts and we'll put it on you. That way you smell like Esau. Because remember, Isaac can still hear and smell. He just can't see. And then, at the very beginning, what was one of the descriptions of Esau? What? Yeah, he was hairy. He was really hairy. Like Sasquatch hairy. Maybe. And so they took sheep's skin or fur coat and put it on Esau's arms, and that was gonna be the way to trick their father's feeling. Or yeah, Jacob's arm. There's a lot of names. Give me some slack. But thank you for keeping me accountable. So yeah, Jacob puts the sheep fur on his arms. So, right before they go through this plan though, Jacob says, wait, Mom. What if I get caught? He doesn't say, Mom, this is wrong. He says, no, what if I get caught? So let's stop right there and think about that. If you're afraid of getting caught, what might that tell you? It's probably wrong. You are correct. Probably something you shouldn't do. So this is going to be the next part of your notes. If you are worried about getting caught, you are probably in a position that is less than honest.